Hi everyone, it's Leslie from Lolabelle, and today I thought we'd do a little tutorial on how to wrap. It's kind of not an oval, it's not a marquise, it's not a teardrop, it's somewhere in between. So we'll call it an oval, but it's quite a elongated shape. This is a Labradorite, quite a flashy little stone, and you can see sort of sitting on my finger. It's not massive, but we're going to wrap it with copper. And then probably oxidize it because it's got some really nice colours. So we've got a lot of green and blue, but there's also a bit of gold and purple in this Labradorite. So the copper will really kind of pick that out and accentuate the colours, which is really nice on Labradorite. So we're going to be using my trusty square copper with this one today. So this is... where's the label? There it is. This is a 20 gauge or 8 mil, 0.8 of a mil square soft copper. So we're going to start off with 4 lengths of this. Now this stone is quite deep, so I'm going to go with 4. If it was a little bit thinner, I'd probably go with 3. But for this one, we will stick with 4 just because of the depth of that stone. We want to try and make sure that it's really well seated in there and held and secure. So, my wire is all tangled, so I'm going to have to straighten this all out a little bit before we start. So, yeah, we will see how this design goes. As I've said in the past, I don't actually tend to start with the design in mind, so I kind of just let the piece evolve as I'm creating it. So what I feel looks right is where we'll head. I always kind of just start with the same base frame and then build from there. Okay, so we've got the 4 wires that we want for the base, and we'll go with half round wire to secure the bottom, just because it obviously gives that nice flat tidy weave. So I'm going to start by just straightening some of these wires out because they're a little bit tangled in that cable tie. So we're just going to try and... So one of the ways, there's a couple of different ways you can straighten your wire. One is actually just to run it through your fingers. And that, if you've got a soft wire, usually works. But if you've got a bit that's quite badly kinked or bending, if you get your needle nose pliers, hold the wire at one end and then just draw your needle nose pliers along the wire, and what you'll get is a lovely straight bit of wire. There's only so much needle nose pliers can do, but it's usually quite effective. I'll just do this one as well, just a little bit of a kink in it. So again, as I say, you just hold it and you just draw it through your needle nose pliers, and it straightens it all out. Okay, so we've got our 4 base wires, and we're just gonna get them all nice and straight, and then just smooth them out so we know that they're all sitting nice and lined up with each other. With your half round, make sure that your flat edge is down. So you always want your flat edge against the base wires. That way you will get a nice close wrap as you're going round, and it helps keep it all looking nice and tight. With half round, I very rarely pull it from the reel whilst I'm wrapping because it does twist and it can become a little bit a little bit untidy as you're going round. So I usually cut off roughly what I think I'm going to need, and then I just wrap, and then I get my flat nose pliers and I'm going to squish at one end, squish at the other end, and then squish in between. It gives me a nice flat wrap. Squish it all together, give it another little squish, And then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to pull the ends in and snip off any excess. Pop that to one side. Whilst I'm wire wrapping, I've always got a little pot at the edge of my desk where I cut and put all of my offcuts, because it can get a little bit untidy if all of your offcuts are just sitting on your desk, or if you're not sitting at a desk or a workbench and you're sitting doing this on your lap, then clearly that's gonna, you're gonna end up with bits of wire everywhere, and that's never a good thing. So I always have a little pot there ready to catch any of my offcuts. Okay, so you can see now we've got that nice flat lined up connection at the bottom. Now this stone is slightly tapered, so it's slightly thinner at the bottom and comes out to a slightly chunkier sides. So what I'm going to do is I just want to curve the wire to seat on that bottom. So I'm going to use my little mandrel, and I think the smallest size at the top here is actually about right for that very, very bottom tip of the stone. So I'm just going to line my wires up over and just curve that bottom into shape and just bring it round. So as I put the stone in, as I pop that stone in, that base should fit beautifully on there. Lovely. I do love it when a plan comes together. And then obviously when you're just going to hold the stone and just pull the wires up just to shape around the stone, so you can see it's holding the stone in there. There's nothing supporting it yet on the back, it's just holding it nice there between the wires. So what I want to do next is just build a little ledge for the stone to sit on at the back. So again, I'm going to go in with my flat nose pliers. You can see that the 4 wires are all stacked up nicely, and I'm just going to hold that back one and I'm going to twist it in so you get a little kink, and then I'm just going to repeat on the other side. I find if you pinch the wires a little bit higher up, it just helps keep that frame all nice and in shape. So these don't need to match perfectly. There's the back of the pendant obviously, but it is always nice to have it looking a little bit tidy. So then what you'll find is that stone will just sit nicely in there, resting on those little ledges, but also resting into that little base bit there. My next most important part of any process is actually going to be, if you've got a stone like Labradorite, moonstone, bellamorite, anything that's got a flash on it. So we've got a little bellamorite here, so you can see it's got a flash on it. What you're going to have, no, you don't have to do it, but what you want to do is kind of look at the stone and see where the flash is, which way up does the stone flash more. So if I hold it there and move it, you can see there's not much flash. If I turn it, all of a sudden you've got flash. So we're going to go that way up, because you want the stone to flash whilst it's around, the wearer's neck. You want it to catch the light. You want it to look nice. You want it to draw attention, really, not to the person, but to the flash. That's what Labradorite is all about. Okay, so I'm just making sure that all of these wires are still nice and lined up. And what we're going to do is we're just going to scoop it around a little bit more, so you can see it's kind of going up into a pyramid here, which is fine, we can keep it there. But what we want to do is shape it up to start building the bail. So we're going to twist up, same on the other side, try and line up those bends, so then when you pull it together it sits nice and even. So here again we're going to go in with our half round wire. So I'm just going to sit that there for a second. And I'm going to grab my reel. So this is the half round I'm using. It's from Rio Grande. I think it's about a 24 gauge, I think. I've had it for absolutely ages, and the label's kind of wearing off. I'd love to buy more stuff from Rio Grande, but just the cost of getting it shipped from the States to the UK is very expensive. So I do struggle with that a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our half round. I've cut it off the reel. Again, I don't like working off the reel on this one. So we're going to go round just 2 or 3 times and just get those wires connected together. And then what we're going to do is take our flat nose pliers and just smush. Don't worry that the stone's falling out because we've not secured it yet. So we want like a nice, again, nice tidy weave or wrap there. So this isn't really weaving, this is more wrapping. So obviously on some designs we weave, and then on others we wrap. So this is more wrapping, and it's nice and simple. It's a nice one to get started with. Okay, so we're going to go around maybe about 8 times, and then smush, and then smush. Now we can look at securing the stone. So just check again. Yep, so we're that way up. Way to secure your stone is you've got 3 wires coming up the side, 1 to the back. We want to use your fingernail to just gently separate the front wire, and then we're going to use a slightly smaller needle nose plier. Just push in there, grip, and then twist it forwards. So it just starts to grip. We do the same on the other side. Fingernail down to separate the wire, coming in with your pliers. You want to try and get as level as you can, and then the same, drawing it in, and then you'll see that your stone is held by those 2 wires, but you're not covering up the face of the stone, so you don't want the wires to come out over the front unless that's part of your design, and obviously that's personal choice, but I like to keep the stone as the centre of attention. And then what we're going to do is with this little tail bit at the back, we're just going to weave and take it down between all of these wires, coming back out to the front. And we want to try and push it as tight to the wire wrap as we can. I'm just going to wrap it around 2 or 3 times here, so it's just to secure that end. And obviously we want it coming away from the skin of the wearer, so we don't want to cut the wire facing towards them. Okay, so there's your 3 wraps there, and then I'm just going to trim off that little bit of excess, pop that in the bin, take my flat nose pliers and just give it a smush, 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 and then you've got a nice secure piece here. So we can tweak around as well, just make sure that everything is held nice and tight, just making sure that nothing is gonna pop out. Okay, so now then, what we've got here is 8 wires pointing straight up to the sky. So we're going to take the front 2 and bend them forwards. Then we're going to take the 3 on the one side and bend them out, and then the 3 on the other side, bend them out. So you end up with something that looks a little bit like this. You've still got quite a long tail here of your half round, So what we're going to do is we're going to just take it around these front two. So this is going to start to form your bail. Now, the first couple of times you go round, it might be a little bit more fiddly because you're trying to go past the other 6 wires that are bending out to each side. Just bear with. I always find it easier here just to spin the actual pendant as much as I can, and we just want to make sure again that this wire doesn't twist. So we want to keep that flat edge against our base wires, every now and then just going in, compressing everything down so it stays nice and tidy, and we just spin, spin, spin until we've got enough length here to create the bail. So this is a very simple bail. It's a very, very simple pendant to make, but it's also very, very pleasing to the eye, shall we say. This is a very popular design. Oops. Certainly with my web shop, this design probably sells more than anything. More complex designs are very niche for, you know, the people wearing them. Not everyone likes to wear big statement pendants. So okay, so then what we do, once we've got enough length there, we just work our way down, giving it all a little bit of a squeeze, tightening it all up. Sorry about that. Every time I try and record a YouTube video, somebody knocks on the door. So we're just smushing just to get the bail wires nice and compressed. So if you've got bail making pliers, you're going to want those roughly about now. So obviously you've got different sizes. If you haven't got bail making pliers, just use anything round. Pencil, pen, you know, wooden spoon, whatever. So what you're going to do, hold it roughly where you want the height of your bail to be, and you're just going to pull it around. Now what I try to do, I'm going to come off camera a little bit now. What I try to do is line up where these wires stop and those begin, because what I'm going to do is stand all of these wires back up, and then I'm going to bring this half round wire around all of them together, again keeping it all nice and tidy. So here again you can just spin the whole pendant, bringing it all around together, nice and tidy. So I always come down a little bit further than my original weave. So with that, okay, so we've got a nice secure bail. Then with your excess, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it around the 2 tails of the bail wire. So when I do this, I tend to find it easier if I use some little pliers, and I kind of grab the end of the wire and I pull it through. That means I can keep hold of everything. Ooh, and catapult the pendant across the workbench. I can keep hold of everything as I am guiding the wire through, because I want the wire to stay lined up. And again, you've got a little bit of time to push and pull it around. So I usually go around here around 3 times, and then once I've done that third one, I'll just get in there and give them all a little bit of a squeeze just to make sure that they are secure. And then I will remove the excess of that. So I'll go up and behind the bail wires and trim it behind there. And then that's a little bit. So when I'm putting things in the bin, you know, offcuts of wire, I'm not planning on throwing them away. They're there, I can use them again later, so I can always sort of fish through that little part of wire, and if there's little bits that will sort of work for here or anywhere else, then I can use them. So now we've done this, we're just going to get our flat nose pliers and we're just going to smush all of this, making it all nice and tight and tidy. Just checking that there's no weird little bits going on anywhere, and that we're happy that everything is nice and connected, and you can see it's all just a nice straight line all the way up. Because I've got a little bit of a gap at the top of the stone, I'm going to take these wires and I'm going to separate them out, and I'm going to try and be equal, try and get a little bit of symmetry. So we're going to come around and to the front, so we'll do one side and then I'll do the other one. So what I want to do is just have that wire a tiny bit higher than the stone, and I'm going to cut off, just leaving a little tail, and then with my smaller nose pliers I'm going to pinch that in and then push it into that gap, and that secures that wire there. Same on this side, I'm going to pull it around, and again trying to get equal to the other side. Once we're happy, give it a little trim, and then fold that end in. Now we don't want this bit too long. If it gets too long, it's going to poke out the back and it's right up against the skin, which is the last thing we want. So we just want to make sure that it's not too long, that it pokes out the back. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for like a looped crossover design. So, and I'm going to keep the wires straight because I don't want the twists on them this time. I want it to be nice and simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wires on one side and I'm going to start to pull them forwards. And as I'm pulling them forwards, I'm going to pull them around. And you can see how I'm pulling it over with my fingers, so it actually curves the wire nicely. And then again, using your thumb to guide the wire and your finger underneath it, we're going to kind of pull it into a big curve that comes down and just meets the pendant at the front here. So it's a very slow movement. You will get used to doing this if you're first starting your journey in wire wrapping. You will learn how the wire behaves. So once you find a wire that you're really, really happy using, you'll get used to how it moves in your hand, and that makes it a lot easier to actually shape the detail up on the bail. So with this one, we're going to come around. That's all that's going to do. So then we're going to just hold that section there whilst we twist these wires around. So you see, these wires are going to end up connecting here, which I'm going to do first, I think. So I'm going to trim off a little bit of the excess that we've got there. And what we can do, and what I typically do, is once I've got the wires where I want them, I will actually get them back out of the way. So I'll keep hold of everything at the front so it doesn't move around. And we'll just straighten these up so we can see where we're connecting. So what we can do here is with this top one, this can actually quite nicely connect into here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip off, and I'm only going to leave a little bit of a tail. It's a little bit fiddly. I hope you can see. Do you want me to zoom in a little bit? That might be easier. So we've got a little bit of a tail there, and we're just going to pull it around, same as we did with those other wires connecting in. And then this is where it gets fiddly because these are in the way a little bit. And then we're just going to press that wire in underneath, and you can see that one is now connected. They will move at the front a little bit, but we can fix that. Then the second wire, just make sure it's sitting where you want it. We've actually got space to do that one there as well. So again, take away a little bit of that excess, keeping yourself a little bit of a tail, twisting it round and pushing it in. And the third one, again, yep, we've still got space there, so we will take some of the excess, a little bit of a tail, and squish in all three of those wires. Sorry, I went off camera then. All three of those wires are now swooping down, connecting here, and we are just giving them a little bit of a squeeze there. And you can see that the wires are still sitting here. If they do move, take your flat nose pliers, certainly if you're using square wire, and just pull them around into their shape. Now we've got these three wires which are going to come out. They're going to come over the top, and then they're going to come around and cross over and come around here. Now I don't think we're going to have as much space on this side, but we'll do what we can. So we're going to do the same again. So I'm going to use my thumb now just to keep them in line with each other, but just bend them gently around, and then I'm going to use my other thumb here. So both my thumbs are working together. Curve that round so it comes to the front, and then swoop around to the back. So then what you've got the front, you've got like a big swoop and a big swoop. Now it's entirely up to you. You could bring these wires round and put a little bit of a detail here if you wanted to. You could do a swirl and back round. So if you wanted to, you could come across here. Maybe do, this is what I mean about letting your design evolve, because as you're moving through, things change, and that's cool, because that's where the originality and the unique design of wire wrapping comes in. So you see then it comes round and it just connects back in with the other two, and you've got a little detail at the front. So you can see here these have moved, they're not fastened yet, so they are gonna move. So what we'll do before we get too much further into anything is we'll trim these down, and let's just assess if we've got enough room here. So I might be able to get one or two down, so let's have a look. Let's try one. This is why it's better to do one wire at a time, cut one wire at a time, because if you go and plan too far ahead and then you sort of look and you go, I can't get that wire in there, and you've already cut it, then you're going to have a bit of a troublesome time trying to secure the wire. So this one is just about gonna fit in there. So you can see the only wire I've got left now is this one from the swirl, and that's good. Now I think I'm going to have a battle with this one. I could wrap it around here. What I am going to do is I'm just going to pull this up a little bit. So actually I'm just going to swerve these in like this, and that's just going to sit behind the stone more and bring it forward at the top. And then with my last one, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try and squeeze it into that tiny gap. Let's see how this goes. Hi! Taking risks. Taking risks on a YouTube tutorial. And then looking at it from the front, you can kind of go, okay, so it doesn't look too bad in there. Everything looks good up top. Now what you could do, depends on your style and your taste, you could maybe put a little bead in there. You could flip your swirl which is actually what I'm going to try and do. So I'm going to get hold of it, and I'm just going to lift it and then squish it in. And then that is going to take away the visibility of the ends in there. And there you have it. All of the wires are connected nice and tidily up at the top here. There's nothing sticking out. You can tell if you always do the test sideways, diagonally, up and down, just to make sure that there's no sharps. Check the bottom and check the back of the bottom, and then here. And then all I do, just to finish, because it's covered in fingerprints and oil from your skin, is I just give it a quick polish with a jewellery polishing cloth. Get the fingerprints off, and there you have a flashy Labradorite copper pendant. And then it's entirely up to you if you want to oxidize it, and then maybe we'll do an oxidization tutorial. Let me know in the comments if that's something that would be helpful for you. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. If you want more tutorials like this, or if there's something specific you want to learn, or if you find this helpful, let me know in the comments, because it really helps me with knowing what to share with you guys. Obviously hit the like button and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, because we've got loads of I've got loads of plans for the sort of channel coming up soon. And thank you for those of you who have already subscribed. It's been really amazing watching the number of subscribers shoot up recently, so thank you so much for your support. But yeah, I hope this one was helpful, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Take care. Bye.